The games were deadly enough, but at night, something else was hunting us, and it wasn't part of the Squid Game. It was my third day in the Squid Game, and the tension in the dorm was like a heavy blanket over us. We had survived the first 2 games, but the fear of what came next kept everyone restless. That night, when the lights went out, I lay on my hard bunk, listening to the soft breathing of the other players. At first it was quiet, just the occasional cough or shifting of bodies, but then I heard its slow, steady footsteps moving between the beds. They weren't the heavy boots of the guards. These were softer, almost careful, like someone trying not to be heard. My heart started pounding as I tried to convince myself it was nothing. But then, in the dim glow from a small emergency light on the wall, I saw him. A masked player stood perfectly still at the end of my bed. His mask was different, smooth, black, and marked with a number 000. I had never seen that mask during the games, and I knew every face in this room. His head tilted slightly, as if studying me, and for a moment, I couldn't breathe. I wanted to call out, but my voice was trapped somewhere in my chest. Then, just as suddenly as he appeared, he was gone, slipping silently between the beds, until I couldn't see him anymore. I lay frozen until morning came, when the wake-up siren echoed through the room. That's when we realized one of the beds was empty. The guards told us he had quit the game during the night, but there was no noise, no goodbye, no sign he had even left. Some people believed them. I didn't. Deep down, I knew the player with the 0 mask had taken him that night. No one really slept. People stayed awake longer than usual, whispering nervously about the missing man, their eyes darting toward the corners of the room as if expecting something to crawl out. I kept telling myself it was just my imagination, but my body wouldn't relax. The guards paced outside as usual, yet somehow their presence didn't make me feel any safer. Around midnight, when most of the whispers had faded and the room had gone quiet, I heard it again, the sound of breathing. It wasn't the slow, calm breathing of someone asleep. It was deep, heavy, and far too close. My skin prickled, and I slowly turned my head. There he was, the same masked figure, 000, standing over another contestant's bed. He didn't move for a long moment, just watching the sleeping player, his head tilting ever so slightly, like he was curious. The dim light from the hallway caught the smooth black surface of his mask, making it gleam. I froze, every muscle in my body locked. Then he lifted one gloved hand and pressed a finger to where his lips would be, a silent command for me to keep quiet. My throat tightened and I couldn't even swallow. He leaned closer to the sleeping player, and for a second, I thought I saw his hand slide into the darkness of the man's chest. Though there was no wound, no sound, just a horrible stillness. Then he stepped back, melting into the shadows between the bunks. I lay there, unable to move until the siren blared the next morning. My eyes went immediately to that bed. It was empty. The guards repeated the same excuse that he quit in the night, but by then, we all knew the truth. Someone, or something, was hunting us between the games. By the 4th night, the air inside the dorm felt different, heavier, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. No one laughed anymore. No one talked unless they had to. We counted the masks every morning now, making sure the number of players matched. But 0 was never among them in the daylight. It was like he only existed when the lights went out. I began to notice the guards were more on edge too, avoiding certain dark corners of the room and glancing nervously toward the ceiling. One evening, as I walked past the supply area, I overheard 2 of them speaking in low voices. "If you see it," one guard said, "don't engage. Just keep walking." My stomach tightened. It, not him. That night, I lay on my bed with a piece of broken metal I had hidden from the last game. My only defense if 0 came near me. Hours passed in silence, then a faint rustling drew my eyes to the far side of the room. He was there again, bent over a sleeping player. But this time, I saw it clearly. His hand was inside the man's chest, fingers moving slowly as though pulling something out. The man's body stiffened, then went limp, his face frozen in a silent scream. I wanted to shout, but fear glued my lips together. 000 stood up, holding something small and glowing faintly before it vanished in his palm. Then, without a sound, he turned and slipped into the shadows, disappearing as if he had never been there. I stayed awake until morning, my mind racing. But when the siren blared, the player's bed was empty, and the guards repeated their same lie. That was when I knew this wasn't just a player. This was a predator. The next night felt different, quieter than usual, as if the entire place was holding its breath. The guards had stopped patrolling the halls, and the distant hum of the cameras was gone. I sat on my bed in my locked single room, staring at the cold metal door, the broken piece of metal still clutched tightly in my hand. I kept telling myself the lock would protect me, that 0 couldn't get in, but deep down, I didn't believe it. Around midnight I heard it, the soft scrape of metal against metal. The lock stayed in place, yet the door began to open slowly, an invisible force pulling it from the frame. My heart hammered as the black masked figure stepped inside, silent, deliberate, the number 000 gleaming faintly in the dim light. He stopped just a few feet from me, tilting his head the way he always did, as if he were studying prey. I raised my weapon, my hands trembling, ready to fight. But he didn't lunge. Instead, he leaned close enough for me to feel the cold air radiating from his body. "You've lasted longer than the others," he whispered, his voice echoing like it came from somewhere far away. Before I could respond, the lights flickered and died. In the pitch black, something icy wrapped around my wrists, pulling me forward. I felt my mask being torn away and replaced by another heavy, suffocating. My vision blurred, and when it cleared, I was no longer in my room. I stood in the center of the dormitory, surrounded by sleeping players, the broken metal gone from my hand. I looked down and saw the black mask on my face. My number was no longer mine. It was 0, and in that moment, I understood I wasn't hunted anymore. I was the hunter. If you enjoyed this chilling Squid Game horror, don't forget to like, comment, and share your thoughts. *, subscribe now to Deep Epoch for more spine-tingling